If you listen closely during tonight's episode of Arrow, you could hear the squeal of 100,000 Elicity shippers. And I was one of them. Hey guys, this is Matt. So I want to talk a little bit about tonight's episode of Arrow, titled The Fallen. It was episode number 20, and boy, was it a doozy. So I'm going to go through just a quick rundown, talk about some of my favorite moments in no certain order. So with all that said, be careful for spoilers. If you haven't seen the episode yet, pause this, go watch it, and come back, because trust me, you don't want to be spoiled with some of the things that happen. So this episode picks up right where the last one left off. Ra's had run Thea through with his sword. She's laying half dead on the floor. Oliver comes in. He sees her laying there, takes her to the hospital, and they're not really able to save her. She doesn't die, but I think they implied that she's basically in a coma, and then he may want to consider life support. But after talking to Maceo, Oliver knows that there's really only one way he can save her, and that is by taking her to Nanda Parbat and dunking her in the Lazarus pit. They talk about how to get there, which leads to Felicity going to Ray and asking if she can borrow his jet. Now, this is an important scene because it leads to them essentially breaking up. So Ray talks about how he noticed Felicity with Oliver the night before when they were saying goodbye to Roy, and how he can see that she clearly still in love with him, and she really can't deny it. So as of tonight's episode, Ray and Felicity, or Raylicity, is officially over. Now, I know a little while ago I said that I actually liked Ray and Felicity as a couple, and I do, but when we see her and Oliver together later in the episode, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that just kind of feels natural, feels right. So I'm glad that Ray and Felicity are over. I do like Ray. I hope he finds somebody that makes him happy, but I'm kind of glad that's over. I'd really like for us to move on to Oliver and Felicity, but with some of the events of this episode, that may not happen for a while. So Felicity, Diggle, and Merlin all try to talk Oliver out of going. Felicity and Diggle obviously don't want him to go. Felicity obviously is in love with him. Diggle doesn't want him to go. He thinks that there's got to be another way. He doesn't want him to fall in with the League of Assassins. And Merlin tries to explain to Oliver what the effects of the Lazarus pit are. When you go in there, when you dunk somebody in there, they don't come out the same. He explains that the Thea that you lost is not the one that you'll get back if you do this. But stubborn Oliver, he's always got to be right. He's always got to have his way, which kind of gets a little bit irritating sometimes. But I guess I understand. He wants to save his sister. So they get her body. They fly her out to Nanda Parbat, and Oliver basically tells Ra's that yes, he will accept the deal if he saves Thea. So they dunk Thea in the Lazarus pit. Now, I liked this scene because they didn't lollygag with it. I kind of thought that they were going to dunk Thea in the pit. Nothing was going to happen. They were going to think that it didn't work, and they were going to have to pull her out, and she was going to lay around for a while and then snap out of the coma. But no, they dunked her in the pit. A couple seconds later, she jumped out. She lunged at Oliver. You could tell she had gone a little bit crazy. A little bit later in the episode, they say that she was confused. She actually woke up. They had to drug her when she attacked Oliver. When she woke up, she didn't really know where she was. She looked at Merlin and referred to him as Dad, but didn't know who Oliver was. She said that her brother was dead, but that confusion wore off as they progressed later in the episode. So yeah, it was nice to see the sort of the instant gratification of Thea coming back. We all knew that somebody was going to go into a Lazarus pit at some point, and I liked that they basically just got right to the point. They dunked her in, she was revived, and started recovering. So after all that excitement, they're all in their rooms. They're trying to sort of calm down from the situation. Felicity walks into Oliver's room and tries to convince him not to go. Of course, he won't listen to her. He says it's the only way. So then she actually goes and confronts Ra's directly, telling him about how he's taking Oliver away from his family and that kind of stuff. And that was kind of nice to see Felicity, mild-mannered, meek Felicity, stand up to the all-powerful Ra's al Ghul. And this was a great scene because Ra's actually talked about sort of his backstory a little bit. No flashbacks or anything, but he talked about how a long time ago he was approached by a man, presumably the Ra's al Ghul before him, and was presented with a choice that basically he could leave without telling his family goodbye, or he could watch them get tortured right in front of his eyes. So obviously he left, and that's when he became the next Ra's al Ghul. But it was a really good scene because it really sort of humanized Ra's. It showed that he's a bad guy, but he's not really that bad of a guy. I've always liked Ra's, even in the comics from years and decades ago. I've always thought he was one of the more complex Batman villains because he's not really an evil villain. He just thinks that what he's doing is right, and to hell with anybody who gets in his way. But he's not a super bad guy. He does have a heart. He does have a conscience, as evident later in the episode with Maseo, and I'll talk about that in a minute too. But he essentially tells Felicity that unlike him in his past, she actually has the time to tell Oliver goodbye, to tell him how she feels, and that was really nice. I mean, he's urging her. It got a little bit CWE, with all the drama and lovey-dovey stuff, but it was kind of nice because, like I said, it showed the human side of Ra's. It showed that he does have a heart, and he is willing to at least let Oliver and his friends say goodbye to each other before he makes Oliver stay there forever. But that was really nice. So Felicity does exactly that. She marches into Oliver's room, tells him that she doesn't want him to go, tells him that she loves him, and then they end up together, if you know what I mean, which we've all been waiting for a couple seasons now. After that, which this actually caught me off guard, they get up and they're sort of smiling and kissing each other after that happened. And Felicity actually drugs him with the same drug that they used to drug Thea when she first jumped out of the Lazarus pit. So I actually didn't see that coming at all. She basically said that she just can't stand for Oliver to stay there. She can't leave without him, and she's going to bust him out. She tries to recruit Diggle and Merlin to help, and of course they protest. Merlin says the League will kill them all if they try, but Felicity, I mean, she just took charge, and she says, no, we are taking him. Merlin, you know the way out. Let's go. They try to escape, and I was a little bit, this is going to sound weird, but I wasn't expecting it, but until I realized what was going on, I didn't really like it that much because I kind of thought that, Oliver was doing the honorable thing, even though nobody wants him to go to the League. He was doing the honorable thing and saying, okay, I'll take your deal and I'll stay if you save Thea. And I kind of thought that it made it look like he was going back on his word. When they tried to escape, they didn't get far. The League surrounded them down in these catacombs they were trying to escape in, and Oliver commands the League to stand down, which is actually cool. So that was the scene from the trailers when he says, "I am heir to the demon, and you will obey. Put your weapons down." So they do that. So and the cool thing about that was that Oliver was not upset that they tried to break him out. He was actually very thankful, and he said that he loved them all the more for trying, but that they can't do it. It's going to be impossible to escape from the League, and he basically accepts his fate. So that was a really nice scene from Oliver, just being honorable and also at the same time not being mad at his friends for trying to help, because trust me, that gets tiring in the episodes. He does that a lot where his friends just try to do something right. They try to help him out, and instead of saying good job or attaboy or anything like that, congratulating them, thanking them, he gets pissed all the time. It happens. So I expected that same thing to happen, and it didn't. So that was a really nice change for his character. So they go through their painful goodbyes, and then Oliver has to confront Ra's, and Ra's is actually a little bit ticked that they tried to escape, but Oliver, assures him that he stayed for a reason. He doesn't have to go. Ra's doesn't have to go over Oliver's friends, Felicity and Diggle and Merlin, because Oliver stayed and he held up his end of the bargain. Maseo admits to Ra's that he was the one who betrayed the League. He actually helped Oliver and company try to escape, but Ra's again shows that he has a heart and he has a conscience. He says that it was the Maseo personality that took over for a bit, trying to help his friend, and not the I can't remember his League of Assassins name, but not the League persona that is loyal to the League, and he lets him live. So that was actually really nice. Another great scene from Ra's. I really like the character. Like I said, I've always liked the character, but I like the character in this world, and I like how he's portrayed. I think he's he's come a long way from the very beginning, which we actually didn't see him much in the beginning, but I just like how he's complex like that. He's not two-dimensional, and dare I say, he may even be a better villain than Deathstroke, than Slade Wilson, because Slade was just all about revenge, whereas Ra's just thinks he's doing the right thing, and he's showing compassion, and he's not just out to kill everybody. Sure, he's killed some people, and he's sent the League after some folks, but he's not out there just to kill people just for the fun of it. I mean, he has his reasons, and he believes they're right, and if he doesn't have to hurt people, it doesn't seem like he will. Speaking of Maseo, there was this really great scene with him and Diggle when they first got to Nanda Parbat. Diggle was talking to Maseo about the League and how they're known for their bravery, but really all he sees are just a bunch of men that are scared, running away from their lives. And Maseo mentions that he actually says to Diggle, "You know nothing," and I was just thinking, "You know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing, John Diggle." But he mentions to Diggle that he really doesn't know anything until he's held his son in his dying son in his arms, telling him that everything's going to be okay when really it isn't, and so that the last words that his son hears are lies. So that was really interesting because that gives us some insight into what happened between himself and Tatsu. We all kind of thought that it was going to be something involving their son, but we didn't really know. It wasn't confirmed, but now we do. We haven't seen it yet. We don't exactly know what the circumstances around that was, but a big scene there that may not get a lot of recognition, but that kind of answers one of the big questions that we've had, at least in regards to the flashbacks this season. We get a nice scene near the end with Felicity and Laurel. Felicity goes to visit Laurel and tells her, well, she doesn't do it on camera, but she essentially will tell her what happened with Oliver, and she's really upset about it. So it was a really nice moment between the two of them. And then we get a scene with Oliver sort of going through more or less a ritual to become the next Ra's. So that was kind of nice to see. And what was really cool about it was that they branded him basically with the mark of I guess what's an arrow, but it's the arrow symbol that shows at the beginning of each episode since the beginning of the season. So that was really neat to show that they weren't necessarily just making this up as they go along. They did have this planned out. It's that exact arrow symbol that's different from the last two seasons. So nice way to sort of tie the season together so far. I really like that. We also get a scene with Merlin and Thea back in her apartment when they're finally back home, and she sort of starts to come to. Merlin explains to her what happened, and he explains to her that he's going to make up for all of his transgressions against her, and that the League has lifted the blood vendetta against Merlin, basically. And he says he's free. He can go anywhere that he wants, but he wants to stay in Starling City with Thea. So I got to thinking, he's not really a free man. I mean, shouldn't the cops still be wanting to take him in for his involvement in the undertaking 2 years ago? I mean, sure, he's free from the League, but I don't really understand how he can just waltz around Starling City without being taken in, unless he's not waltzing around Starling City, unless he's staying hidden. But, we've had some scenes of him walking around in a suit. We've had some scenes of him in his office. And he says that he can go wherever he wants to and he wants to stay. If I'm not mistaken, he's still a wanted man, so he should probably be careful. I thought that was a little strange. It's almost like they just forgot about the undertaking. They forgot about what he did, how he was responsible for the deaths of 500 and some odd people. So maybe they'll touch on that at some point, but I kind of think they just are going to let it go. One other thing to mention is the flashback for this episode. So basically, it's a team up between Oliver and Maseo and Tatsu. They're essentially trying to get the Alpha Omega virus back. So they track down General Shreve, and they see that he has the Alpha and the Omega, and he's combining them to activate it or to arm it or weaponize it or what have you. So there's a car chase. They actually manage to find the virus. They try to stop it, but in the scuffle, the vial that the virus is in breaks, and we start to see it sort of spread. We don't know yet what's going to happen. That was the end of the flashback, was when the vial broke. So I'm not sure what effects that's going to have. I kind of think that's going to have something to do with their son dying, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. there has to be a resolution to that fairly quickly. We've only got 3 or 4 episodes left in the season, so I think it's going to be related somehow. I actually think that that Akito, Masayo's son, I think that Akito's going to contract the virus, and Masayo knows there's nothing that he can do to save him, but he's still sitting there telling them that everything's going to be okay, and then his son dies in his arms. So I think in regards to the flashbacks, even though this episode wasn't a setup and was actually a payoff, I think this week's flashback was a setup for the kind of the climax of the flashbacks that we've seen so far. So all in all, this was a really great episode. I know I ran through it fairly quickly. I don't like to keep these videos too long, but this was fantastic. It was a lot better than the last several that we've got. This was not really a setup episode. This is actually the payoff for a lot of the things we've seen. I really like this storyline of Oliver going to the league. I can't wait to see what he does. It doesn't look like with the previews from next episode that he's fully taken on the Raish persona yet, or that he doesn't quite fully take it on in next week's episode. It's actually, that one looks like a good one because it looks like he's going to maybe have to go up against his friends, up against Diggle and Laurel at least. We saw them in the trailer. And in that trailer, it looks like they captured Diggle and Raish commands Oliver to kill him. So that's going to be really neat. Obviously, he's not going to do it, but I'll be interested to see in just how he gets out of it. But I'm digging this storyline. I kind of wish that he had gotten to the league earlier in the season, and we could have seen more of him doing that. I always liked in any comics really when another character takes over for a while. We know that nothing is permanent in comics, and this won't be permanent. This won't be permanent either. But it'll be fun to see sort of a different take on Oliver for a while, a different suit, a different attitude, a different mission. That's going to be fun. I just wish we could have got more of it because we're almost to the end of the season, unless he doesn't come back. But I believe the last episode of the season is titled "My Name is Oliver Queen," so I kind of think that he won't be with the League for very long. He'll be there long enough to team up with Flash and Firestorm in that big team-up episode, and I'm not really sure when that is. It's most likely in a couple weeks because we don't have much time left before the season runs out. But this is a nice change rather than Oliver just brooding all the time and running around the city, beating up bad guys and being all mopey and longing for Felicity. This is a really nice change of pace, something totally different, and I completely welcome it. Can't wait to see what happens. So that's all I'm going to say for this week's episode of Arrow. If I left anything out, and I probably did, or if you have any opinions about anything, just leave a comment below. And if you want to keep up with everything else that the Nerd Punch crew is doing, just be sure to follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Twitch or YouTube, all those /Nerd Punch. And you can go to nerdpunch.com for all the stuff that you can find on all those other sites too. But yeah, this was fantastic, and I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about it. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.